Go
Before we
ahead.
move on, can I get the inside scoop on Pittsburgh? I just saw like loosely online the I guess the hostilities, the rule changing, like playing like Monopoly with your friend, just changing the rules at the last minute.
Yeah, well, so I talked about this a little bit on the last episode with Josh Smith, but it to me, it's I actually kind of I don't know that I completely agree with the way it was being characterized by some in the Mises Caucus. The truth is, what happened, right, is that in Pennsylvania, there's been a lot of hostilities between the leadership and the Mises Caucus. That goes back to stuff in the Maj Toure campaign and other things. And I don't know all of the details on it, so I don't want to cast judgment on either side. Obviously, I'm sympathetic to the Mises side and to Maj because that's my guy and that's my caucus. But so the basically there's a bylaw that states that you have to be a member for at least 180 days in order to be able to vote at the convention. And the bylaw is always waived. Every year they waive it and just let new people in because they don't, who wants to discourage new members from participating in the process? And they're dues paying members and they're there and all of that. So it's never been used. It's never been enforced. It's always waived. And for the first time, they didn't waive it because they knew that all the new members were, they knew they were going to lose and that the new members were Mises Caucus and they were going to vote for their people. And it was clear when they got there, they had that, we had the numbers and all of that. Now, a lot of the people in the Mises Caucus, understandably, but their reaction to that is like, this is corruption. They cheated. They did this. And I'm just looking at it and I'm like, well, look, technically, no. I mean, corruption, I suppose, is debatable, but it's not cheating. I mean, technically, this is a bylaw that's just never enforced before, and they used it this time for obvious reasons. But to me, I go like, oh, okay, so they know what it is. They knew what they had to do in order to hold on to their positions. And the truth is, by the next convention, all of the members are going to be eligible. So they really just kicked the can down the road. To me, I'm like, I take this as a win. I take this as an admission from them that they're like, the best we can do is hold off till next convention. So I'm really not that upset about it.
So not libertarian to just want to hold on to your little tiny political position.
Well,
if there's one thing that the party's not supposed to be about, it's that.
Well, look, there's
I got my little slice of power here.
There's certainly a fair point to that. The other thing that I find kind of amusing is that of the people who invoked this bylaw or refused to waive it or whatever you want to say, how many of them would think that like requiring ID or something like that is some great, violation of voter rights, right? Like now I'm not that person, so I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I go, hey, whatever your rules are that you want to enforce, I suppose you have the right to do that. But if you're one of those people and then you'll turn around and disenfranchise all these new members, that's pretty contradictory. Also, one of the really funny things is that those people were bragging about the new membership. They were bragging about how PA's membership is like gone through the roof. And then a lot of them were arguing like, it's not really Mises Caucus who's driving the new membership, it's us. But then why wouldn't you want the new members to be eligible to vote? Seems pretty obvious, it's a pretty obvious admission. But to me, I just go, we had this incredible event with tons of enthusiasm. We go over there and they knew the only way they could hold us off was to invoke this rule that they never use. Which side would you rather be on? The one having an incredible event, having the enthusiasm, or the one who's so desperate that they need to use a bylaw that's never before been used, or at least hasn't been used in like 30 plus years, in order to hold on to your little sliver of very little power? I think it's pretty obvious. And the way I take it is like, and I said this to the Mises Caucus guys, I posted a thing in the group about it. I was like, no whining, no complaining, not even a thing. We will all be back next year in bigger numbers. I already said, I promise next year I'm coming back. I promise we'll drive more recruitment. And that's it. It's a guarantee next year. So I take it as nothing but a win. And the success of the Mises Caucus around the country, it just had a huge results in California. Of course, as we mentioned before, took New Hampshire, took Nevada. Like things are really coming together. I would say for all the stuff I talked at the beginning of the year, I couldn't be more thrilled with the way it's all unfolding.